This is the first ever RZFL XFL podcast. Today we're sponsored by Buckley Apps, coming at you with the greatest games of the century. Download, protect, pay, or jail run today on the Google Play or the App Store. Today we're here with two other fantastic people, the entrepreneur Nicholas Buckley himself and John. Say what's up, guys.
What's up, guys?
Hello, everyone.
We are here talking about the XFL. We had two games today, the first ever XFL games, well, kind of, the first ever new XFL games, where we had the DC Defenders beat my Seattle Dragons 31-19 in a pretty close game up until the fourth quarter, and the LA Wildcats lose to the Houston Roughnecks 37-17. We're going to be talking about our thoughts and opinions. Once again, this is sponsored by Buckley Apps, coming at you with the greatest games of the century. Download, protect, pay, or jail run on the Google Play and App Stores. So, what are our thoughts right now on this game?
I mean, I think that the Seattle Dragons were kind of weak throughout the game. I feel like the defenders kind of had the upper hand throughout the entirety of the game, and they just looked like overall the better team.
I mean, I feel like the Dragons definitely kept their own until the very end. I mean, they were supposed to be destroyed, and they kept it close for most of the game.
I felt like James Warren's a terrible head coach in this league. I mean, we're out here. We got live broadcasting of plays. We have 12 personnel, 11 personnel, the only two personnel he runs. And we're out here. We're hearing all the play calls, and he's still out here covering his play calls with his sheet. I don't feel like the Dragons are ever going to go for 2 points or 3 points. He's super conservative. Felt like conservative play call hurt the Dragons down the stretch, and ultimately fell short because of turnovers to DC, who was the better team. The Dragons were last on every single bet line and power rankings and everything.
Did a single team go for the 3-point this
I don't
week?
think a single team went for the 3-point conversion, which is something that's interesting to see. The Dragons tried to kick a field goal.
I think in the first game there was actually one attempt at the 3-point conversion. I feel like there was.
It might have been an attempt.
I would check that. I feel like I recall a 3-point attempt,
But
I think
the Dragons were trying to set themselves up by kicking a field goal to make it a 9-point game, something that was interesting. They were trying to get it to a 9-point game. Control F. 3-point game.
Let's fact check that right now.
It does not look like there was, because
I'm not sure if there was.
it doesn't look like there was a 3-point attempt.
Okay.
No, there
It was
wasn't.
not a 3-point attempt.
There was I know there was a 2-point attempt, and also the fact that it was pretty unsuccessful. Looks like almost all the conversions were unsuccessful.
Yeah, the Dragons only converted one time, and the plays didn't look too good. It was basically throw a slant over the middle of the field and hope that your guy catches it and beats the defender. I would like to say the DC Defenders, their secondary looked phenomenal today. They were making plays all over the field. Their corners were excellent.
Well, what's your opinion on the way the kickoff is in the XFL compared to the NFL? How the kicker will kick it off, and you have to wait till the returner actually catches or receives the ball to the other team.
I mean, I thought it was quite good. I thought it was going to be too easy for returners, but nothing crazy. There was one good return, but nothing like 3 were returned to the house or something like that.
Yeah, we saw better returns in the second game than the first game, but it was definitely interesting. It seemed like the common strategy was go ahead and try to find the outside and just take the outside for as long as you can go until you get pushed out down the sideline. I didn't see anyone take an open hole and be nothing but daylight to just run. Normally when there was a hole, you would have players dropping back and forcing the player out of bounds or making a nice open field tackle. I feel like this is so much better for the safety of the game. I mean, everyone's trying to take away the kickoff, right? Trying to put the ball at the 25-yard line. That's no fun. We're in the extra fun league. I feel like this is something that the NFL should adopt, but they're not going to because they're the no fun league.
I don't remember which team, but I know there was a team that made, I think, a 55-yard field goal today, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that was
the
that was because of a faulty kickoff. It was right before halftime. the Dragons scored and they went up 13-12. And then after that, they kicked off. The kickoff didn't even make its way to the 20-yard line, which put the ball automatically at the 45-yard line of the defenders. And they got in the field goal range, and the kicker drilled a 55-yarder to make it 13-12 then.
And that's crazy that you get it on their 45. Like
That's pretty good.
That's amazing.
Touchbacks are 35. They're really encouraging people to return. That's a big part of their advertising the game, was that there's going to be big returns. I saw a thing in the XFL preseason in their scrimmages. Their average return was 28 yards per return. We didn't see quite that today, but we did see a pretty big return, much more exciting than the NFL, where you just kick the ball off and you see players either wave it off or take a knee. You see touchbacks on pretty much every single kick.
Well, there were a couple 2-point and 1-point attempts that I've seen today throughout the games. Which do you think is going to be the majority of the attempts that we're going to see as teams score touchdowns throughout the season? Which do you think is going to become the most popular and go-to conversion?
Well, obviously we haven't seen the 4 of the teams play yet, but judging by today, very conservative. I feel like we're going to see 1 point primarily. We may see some 2 points. 3 points is going to be very situational, depending on if you're down by 9, down by 12, something like that.
And if you think about it, if you can get that 3 points, that's basically the same as going down the field and getting another field goal. So that can be really
It's crucial. A 9-point game and an 8-point game is so much different. It's going to be a 1-possession game. Also, you go like 18 points, normally something that's supposed to be a 3-possession game, or 17 points, something that's supposed to be a 3-possession game, that turns into just a 2-possession game. No lead could be safe. The clock moves very fast, though, so it is hard to get comebacks unless you're inside of 2 minutes where the clock stops almost after every single play. Something I also want to talk about during the kickoff on one of them, I don't know if either of you caught this, but there was a kickoff, I don't remember what game it was, but there's a kickoff down I think it was in the second game, there's a kickoff down the sideline, and the guy decided to let it bounce all the way to like inside the 5-yard line, picked it up, didn't get a good return. When what he could have done was just put himself out of bounds and like lay out of bounds and grab the football.
Yeah,
and take the ball at the 45-yard line because of penalty.
Yeah, like that's what you see that time in the highlight reel sometimes.
Yeah, like the smartest players.
Yeah,
like
that kind of stuff.
I felt like that could have been done. That's something I wanted to call out right there.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that. That's good.
But we do bad football IQ on that play, but what I did see was some pretty good football IQ. Quarterback play in the first game was very questionable. I didn't feel like Cardell Jones was as good as people said that he was going to do. He still played pretty solid. Brandon Silvers, of course, having a couple errors, throwing some picks. Play calling didn't really help him out too much. Jim Zorn even took credit for the first pick. The second pick was because Austin Kroll fell down. I want to say player of the game for my Seattle Dragons was Austin Kroll. Had 2 touchdowns, put the Dragons back in the game in the third quarter, but ultimately not enough for the win and kind of contributed to the loss of a pick 6.
Yeah, the biggest thing for the Dragons was definitely the turnovers.
It was a 3-0 turnover battle. I felt like the Dragons were not as bad as many people said they were going to be. I felt like the team was okay. Overall, Austin Kroll looks like he's the number 1 receiver, though. They weren't very efficient throwing to him. Had 5 catches on 10 targets. Did have 2 touchdowns, but again, 5 catches on 10 targets isn't very efficient and effective. We didn't really see any receivers completely terrorizing. In the second game, I know Nelson Spruce caught 8 passes on 8 targets in the first half, was a very dominant factor in the first half. He finished up with 11 receptions on 15 targets for 103 yards, no touchdowns. I really liked was not obviously not on the winning team either. I really liked the way that Walker played on the Roughnecks. I felt like he reminded me of Deshaun Watson, was mobile at the same time. He had 26 rushing yards as well as his 272 passing yards. I felt like he was the player of the day, to be honest.
And he was really tough to bring down. Whenever the pressure got to him, he was usually able to either get through it or I believe he was sacked 1 time. And that one time, it was really tough for them to bring it down. Something like that.
Yeah, there were a couple impressive plays that I saw where it looked like he might even get sacked, but he was able to push off the defender and did a good job of even having a chance at completing a pass through that.
The biggest thing I think was, and the announcers were talking about the whole game, was the whole going forward on fourth down, which they were pushing for a lot. And I think every team but the Roughnecks went. No, every single team went for it at least one time on fourth down.
I do still feel like punting is still going to be a big part of the game, even though the XFL rules are trying to be designed to kind of not eliminate but limit more of the punting style at fourth down and go for it a little bit more. I do feel like going for it on fourth down is still going to become more common. I just don't feel like it's going to be as common as maybe they originally intended.
So, obviously the Roughnecks dominated in the second half of that football game. It was a close game. The Wildcats even had an opportunity to take the lead before halftime, missed an easy field goal. But I do feel like the Roughnecks are going to be one of the top teams in the league. They have a very solid roster. For the other teams today, Dragons definitely has some talent with a couple of former AAF players on that team. They do have talent, but I feel like the Roughnecks showed the most talented roster today. DC showed that they had a very talented roster on the defensive side of the ball. So it should be interesting. The games tomorrow feature a lot of teams that should be at the top of the league, so that's going to be interesting.
What team do you think is going to win in the Guardians-Vipers matchup tomorrow? What team are you expecting to win that game?
My pick is going to be the Guardians. I really, really like their roster overall. I feel like they have a very good quarterback situation. Their receivers are pretty good. They got Mikel McKay. I feel like defensively they're also pretty good aligned. The Vipers are supposed to be one of the better teams too, but they lost Antonio Callaway, former Cleveland Browns receiver, due to injury. He's out for the rest of the year. They definitely have playmakers on that team, but I think the Guardians, given home field advantage, are going to go ahead and ball out and are going to win.
Obviously, we haven't seen the Guardians play yet, but we have seen the Defenders, and I believe the Defenders are going to be playing the Guardians in the following week. So, if given that might be a matchup coming up soon, who do you think would possibly win that game? Looking at the roster of the Guardians,
I gotta wait for the Guardians to play. What's your pick for the Guardians Vipers game?
I definitely feel like it's definitely going to be close, but the Vipers have been doing some stuff around their team with their roster and moving players around, and I think that they might come out with some surprises. Maybe we'll see the first double forward pass.
Yeah, that was something we did not get to see today. We did see the DC Defenders with that critical trick play. They ran triple reverse and throw it out to their tight end, and 39-yard touchdown. Pretty cool.
I feel like that, especially if this game goes down to the wire, we'll definitely see at least one of those teams attempt to do the double forward pass.
And then our final game of the weekend, the Dallas Renegades taking on the Seattle Battlehawks. The Renegades are, I believe, heavy favorites in this game. It is cool. One other aspect is you get to see the bet line and the over-under. It's just cool. The Dragons and Defenders game did feature something very weird. The Dragons, they kicked the field goal to only be down 9 points, but there was roughing the kicker, so that field goal got taken off the board. If they kept the field goal, the Dragons would have covered the spread at the end of the day, and also would have went over the 51.5 points. Instead, the game stayed under. So very interesting for Vegas terms.
If the XFL had a team anywhere else in the United States, where do you think would be a good area for them to put? Because obviously they kind of wanted to put cities.
Obviously Cleveland, because Cleveland's the best city of all time. Either Cleveland or Denver, my two cities. I don't think we're looking at any way of expansion. How do we feel how the XFL did on its first day in terms of viewers and I don't say population, but the awareness of the game from the American population.
I think there was a good amount of people watching the game, and I think there was still a good turnout. I think I read somewhere 17,000 or something people showed up to the first game.
I believe that's what it was.
So that is a pretty good turnout, I would say, for at least the first game. And if that keeps up throughout the first week, and if there's not even a major drop-off in the second week, I think that the XFL has a good chance to surpass the AAF for how they've done, if they haven't already, and continue to be a good league in the off-season of the NFL for football fans.
I feel like it did pretty well. The only thing that people didn't really like was the sideline reports. People found them out. They didn't really like them.
I also heard that some players were actually getting annoyed by the fact that one of the new things they were doing is that, you know, the mics never get cut off during the span of the play, and they said some players were starting to find it annoying.
I mean, it's funny when a player misses a field goal and they go up to them and like, what do you think you could do better? But it's kind of, if you were a kicker, you wouldn't want that to happen. You just missed a kick. Essentially, every missed kick, you're one step closer to losing your job, getting fired. So it is kind of personal on that level. But again, at the same time, it's funny when you go out and you interview a guy that just got in a fight and he drops an F-bomb on live TV. That's kind of funny. But other times, you just interview Jim Zorn, the boringest guy ever on the planet, and he just tells you the same thing about 12 personnel and not being able to execute. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear Cardell Jones, who's one of the most boring guys on the planet as well, interviewing him and talking about execution. I want to get the personalities. If we're gonna have these sideline interviews, I want the personalities. We're gonna have Pat McAfee on a game. He's gonna spice everything up tomorrow. But if you're gonna interview some guy on the sideline, make it a guy with a personality. Make it a guy like Johnny Manziel, who also started some controversy with the league, talking about, as the New York Post would like to say, praising himself and ripping the league does not have any future plans to go ahead and return to the game. But what I'm saying here is, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I feel like if you want to go ahead and get an interview with someone, I feel like it's got to be someone with a nice personality, someone who's loud, like Elijah Qualls when he was keeping the ball. That was cool.
Good.
But when you get the head coach on, the head coach is not a cool guy. Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. I can already feel the Dragons are gonna suck this year, but that's okay. That's okay. Jim Zorn is a boring guy, as I said before. We're gonna keep ripping on him, but whatever. He's a Seattle legend.
I feel like the first impressions of the XFL have been fairly positive, at least. I mean, in a small poll of about 250 people, we had about 85% of people saying they like the XFL so far. They can easily say that. About 14% of people say they haven't made up their mind yet on the league, which that's obvious.
And
that could change.
mere 1% saying that they
just didn't like the league at all. So, I mean, it felt like very positive feedback overall for the first impressions of this small sample size so far, at least.
Again, this is the RZFL XFL podcast, sponsored by Buckley Apps, coming at you with the best games of the century. Download, protect, pay your run on the Google Play or App Stores today. We were talking XFL right now. We just wrapped up this week's games. We talked about the expectations and what happened, the reaction to the games. Anything else that we need to cover?
Not that I can think of. Just we'll be watching the games tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to comment on them later.
I feel like we need to take a little bit of a deeper look into the second game. We talked about the first game. The second game, what are we feeling? We talked about there's quarterback play, but how do we feel about that game?
I felt overall it was a pretty good game. It was a close enough game towards the beginning, I feel, but kind of spread apart towards the end. And overall, it was an entertaining game. And I feel overall the defenses were fairly decent, but I'm not real sure. I don't know.
Yeah, sadly I wasn't able to watch that much of this game, but definitely seems to have been something that I've noticed throughout all 4 games is the amount of yards from penalties are from these games.
Actually, DC was committing more penalties than the Dragons, and Obviously, turnovers are more costly than penalties most of the time, and that played a huge factor. In this second game, penalties did play a factor, definitely in the Roughnecks winning the game. Honestly, we haven't praised the refs today. We haven't praised the refs. I almost made a video completely ripping the officiating in Super Bowl 54. That officiating was terrible. Like, I've never seen anything worse in my life. It was so one-sided, in my opinion, towards against the 49ers, towards the Chiefs. But today, we didn't really see any biasness. We saw great calls. Everything that wasn't called correctly was overturned in the booth. And I feel like this is gonna push the edge right now, what determines if this league is successful or not.
Yeah, I mean, nothing in the first two games, nothing controversial, nothing blowing up, saying the refs are terrible, and I mean, I feel like that's not something the NFL can say. So that's a good start for them.
I mean, today the officiating. I mean, I love the replay system. I can't say enough about that. I think that's the best thing. Obviously, the replay system allowing you to just at any point of the game be like, I want to look at it, and then you get to see the guy upstairs in the booth. You get to see him go talk through it and tell you exactly what he's thinking and why something's ruled. Before, you just get that blank. I don't want to say blank stare, but the referees just hit you with something random, and they go, the receiver did not maintain possession of the football. Like you know where that's from, Cowboys, Packers. But like you get an open eye to what's going on behind the scenes, which I really like.
I also really like it. There was always an aspect to when they cut back from commercials and everyone got silent as the referee said something. But the fact that now we know the full process of the person making the call, that's a big step. It's a good step.
I can't wait for Pat McAfee to be that voice on the sideline. It's gonna be so fun. I mean, the reporters definitely trying their best, being a little bit pushy at times to get like a player for an interview, especially like after a touchdown, after a pick six by the DC defenders that pushed the game wide open. You got the reporter out here sticking her microphone in front of everyone, and just that was kind of funny. Also, we got the guy that threw up at the beginning of the second game. We had the sideline interview. The DC defender guy that called the woman reporter. He said yes sir at the end. I mean, a lot of minute details that picked up on, but I feel like this is gonna be a fun league. What are our opinions compared to the AAF? That's the big question here.
I mean, compared to the AAF, I feel like definitely. The XFL has a lot more money to move around than the AAF does. But I just feel that the AAF didn't set itself apart enough from the NFL.
Speaking of stuff that does not set it, that does actually set themselves apart from others and great games. We have Buckley Apps, our sponsorship, and they're download Protect the Piggy or Jared on the Google Play. Best games of all time. Go visit them. RZFL Sports, our main channel. Subscribe to them. They have over 1,000 subscribers. The brand. Anyway, the AAF. We don't care about the AAF, okay? Let's be real here. The XFL did a much better job. As you said, more money involved. Biggest thing, TV contracts. Okay, I don't know about you, but when I want to watch a game, I either want to watch it on an Agent Pew's live stream.
Yeah.
Our other sponsor. Don't forget our other sponsor, Buckley Apps, bringing you the greatest, coming at you with the greatest games of the century. But I want to be watching my games honestly on Fox Sports or ESPN or at the time AF was on CBS based stuff. I don't want to be watching my games on Bleacher Report Live. Like, you feel me on that? I don't like Bleacher Report Live. If Buckley Apps had a platform to watch the games on, I would watch the games on there. But I don't want to watch it on Bleacher Report, okay? They are a well-known brand, but they're not as well-known as, like, RZFL Sports or a brand like Buckley Apps.
I mean, I want to watch it on Agent Pew's stream.
Yeah,
honestly.
but, like, what we're trying to say right now is the AF terrible TV contracts. It's absolutely terrible. Their officials didn't set themselves. The only thing that they set themselves apart really was with that one hit in the first game. We all remember that one big hit. But that's the only thing we remember from the AF. I mean, I really like their song, like their theme song, at all. But like, there's nothing that set themselves apart. Like how Nicholas Buckley Apps would set the games they make apart from the other apps in the App Store. Right now we can't contain ourselves. Right now in the studio we have a lot of stuff going on in the background right now. We gotta get the plug in. I'm sorry guys, it's part of our deal. But our big sponsorship that allows us to allows us to go ahead and broadcast right now. Our producers right now in the background, they're cracking us up right now. But that's gonna be the that's gonna be the podcast. Sorry, everything kind of hectic right now. Our producers in the background, they're yelling at us right now. They get the sponsorships in. We have a set. We have to say it a certain amount of times every podcast. But I hope you guys understand. Thank you guys for watching, listening, and this is RZFL Sports RZFL podcast signing off. Bye guys.